So Dwight, this is very similar to our last one, but instead of religion, how much politics should you put in?
Great question. I mean, I've had entire games where I was like, let's do political game.
Yes.
And the entire storyline revolved around a king doing something that his people may or may not like, and a civil war that erupted out of it. And the people that were, the players had to be nobility so that they actually had a say.
Yeah.
You could run politics the same, different way where they're not nobility, and they're being called to fight for a group that they don't even care for. You could also do, in the political scenario, you could do the secret sect thing that comes up quite a bit. My wife and I are finishing up Deep Space Nine, like watching every episode on Netflix, and there's a secret group of Starfleet intelligence, potentially, that's there. So like that's kind of a political thing where you have a secret group doing stuff. So really, it depends on what you want to do with it. You can actually, I mean, to a certain degree, most games will have maybe an element of politics. So if you look at a game like The Witcher 3, for instance, there's like 4 different countries, basically.
Yeah.
One group is killing all the mages. One group is kind of getting taken over by that group. One group's on a bunch of islands, and they're just kind of more like Norse Viking type of guys, and they're just not messed with.
Also, during The Witcher 3, you're taking place during a war.
Right, there's a war, which of course there's a war, right? That's anytime there's a war, you're in some sort of political drama. The question then is, how much do you want your players involved in the politics versus the fighting? And this is a great question.
Yes.
You could have an entire war going on where there's not one battle scene because it's all taken place at the highest levels at the political thing, where it's like strategy.
Yeah.
We need to take this over. We're taking this over, and that could be run kind of like a board game. So like we have the Game of Thrones board game, which is pretty long and intense, like 4 hours long. But it's got the entire map of Westeros, which is the country that is where it's basically where the Game of Thrones. If you didn't see the book, you didn't see the show or read the books, it is. And so you start out as one of the houses, and then you amass armies and you go to town.
Yeah.
But the aspect of that game is not necessarily war. It's like troop management, moving your guys where they're supposed to be, and then messing people over without them knowing it's happening.
It's a lot of, it's a war game like in Axis and Allies, but it's all supply side.
Right.
It's more of how do you run a war economically.
It's like Risk, except now you have to manage how to feed all those troops.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool, actually, which means that a lot of your tactics looks like, I'm just going to break this here so that you can't really, these guys are cut off. You're going to leave them to die.
It very much is I can't hold all of this because I don't have the troops. So I'm going to consolidate where I can.
Yep. I can't hold all the land I want to hold, so I'm going to hold what I can. And then, of course, you end up holding areas. And if I break through, the middle is weak.
Yep.
Because you didn't defend it, because you can't. You don't have the supply. So there's a lot of ways you could run a politics game. Now, that said, how much politics do you need? Well, the answer is none. Literally zero politics. Now, if you're going to have some kingdoms and some kingdom on kingdom or faction on faction fighting, you're going to have politics there.
Yeah.
Again, you could locate that mostly to not the political side, but the fighting side. But you could pivot your game if your players are interested, and have less of it on the fighting side and more of your players putting their skills and their talents into things like negotiation and subterfuge and spying and those sorts of things.
And one of the things I was going to mention, because you can have none to all politics.
Right.
Then there's that middle ground. Yep. So if your players just love to go into dungeons, you could have your world have some factions, some kingdoms that they're a part of, and as things change, they're not able to sell stuff as well. They're not able to buy stuff because the same things that adventurers need, soldiers need.
Exactly. So they're getting cut off.
The supply of their ability to have adventuring is restricted by what kingdom's economy is and where they're at in war.
Makes sense.
And you might have them get pulled into war because they're fulfilling a need of a mercenary now.
Right. They can't do anything else but that. I mean, so there's different ways to go with it. I actually love the political type of games, but at that point, again, you can go as political as you'd like, but at the end of the day, if I was setting something up and I wasn't going to go that political, you might want to just start with how many kingdoms are in your world that matter, who are the rulers and the advisors of those kingdoms, and then at what level in that org tree do your players fit into, and so It could be something as simple as like, yeah, there's a king and there's a queen and there's like their retinue. I don't care who they are. But they do have a mayor that's appointed by the king and queen in the town that we're all located in. And at that point, that's the only real person they have to interact with.
Yeah.
And that mayor could be the person that gives them jobs or hires them out or conscripts them for some sort of task. Mm-hmm. And see that at that point, that the amount of politics you need is really just a name, a faction, and what are they good for your players. And that's really it. So you don't have to go crazy with it. And with that, we'll see you next time.